What's going on, everybody? It's your buddy, it's your pal, SpazPhoenix, the YWC Reality Check, with a day late Raw review. Oh yes, halfway through the show last night I decided I wasn't going to be reviewing it until today. You know why? Because I was enjoying it and I didn't feel like taking notes anymore. Oh yes. Are you excited for the Royal Rumble now? If you aren't, do this, or maybe one of these, or one of these. If you're not, you may not have a pulse. Get, the zombie self-check kit at your local grocery store or whatever. You may not have a pulse. I'm just saying, I am so jacked for the Royal Rumble now. I know there are people out there that are saying, oh, Rock versus Punk shouldn't be overshadowing the Royal Rumble match itself. Ha! Good luck with that. Just saying. Royal Rumble match is awesome. It's one of my favorite matches of the year. It's one of my favorite moments of the year. There's nothing else like the Royal Rumble, but let's be honest, it's Rock and Punk. I'm just saying. This show, first Raw of 2013, starts with somebody new, somebody different, somebody young, somebody up and coming, somebody trying to break through that glass ceiling, as we'll talk about later on. No, we start with John Cena, which makes everybody moan and groan. And what does he do? He talks about who else is going to be on the show tonight, because he knows at this point in his career that's the only time people are going to cheer while he's in the ring, is if he talks about somebody else. So who does he talk about? He talks about Ryback, he talks about Punk, and he talks about The Rock. Just sad. Thankfully, Ziggler comes out, tells him off, tells him what a bad year he's had, tells him this and that. And the next thing talks about how the shit gag was childish and old and it was, ripped off type of thing. Cena continues. Sorry, my glasses are doing fucked up shit. Talks about basically how John Cena, and this is absolutely true, and this is one of the things that drives all of us nuts, John Cena loses, laughs it off, and makes nothing matter. Brilliant. Talks about how he ended his year by losing to Dolph Ziggler. It's all fine and wonderful. Cena challenges Ziggler to a match. Ziggler says no. Big E Langston, somebody makes the mistake of giving Farouk version 2.0 a microphone. Big E Langston accepts the challenge from John Cena for Dolph Ziggler. Interesting, right? So, Dolph Ziggler, AJ Lee, Black Swagger, all go down to the ring. Ziggler has a match with Cena. Ziggler steals the fucking show, throws everything and the kitchen sink at John Cena, but because it's John Cena still gets the bullshit victory. Everything John Cena did in this match. See, here's the thing. Dolph Ziggler's amazing at selling stuff, and I think John Cena thinks that by over-exaggerating everything he does, he's going to be appreciated on the same level as Dolph Ziggler. Note, it's not going to happen. You might want to actually look what the second W in WWE stands for. Go back to OVW, FCW, learn what the fuck wrestling is. Come back to, or maybe no, don't even come back to us then. Maybe go to ROH, because I don't watch ROH, or, PCW, or IWGP, something I don't watch. Go somewhere where there's real wrestlers, get stretched out like a fucking rack, and then you will know what real wrestling is. But it's bullshit, and AJ gets involved, and Big E Langston gets it. I don't know why they've stuck Dolph Ziggler with another personality-less partner, friend, associate, whatever. The whole AJ and Ziggler thing works, because she's nuts, and he's an egomaniac, and they feed off each other, and that's great. Big E Langston just looks out of place. Nation of Domination was like 10 years ago or so. I'm just putting it out there. And if he starts doing the whole 5 thing that he was doing in NXT, I might slit my throat. True story. Now, moving on, Eve versus Caitlyn, and this is one of those ones where I know the people that are trying to be negative will try to be negative. Eve and Caitlyn have a great match for a minute or so. Eve bails, she plays the cowardly heel, but she plays the cowardly, look how smart I am by being cowardly heel, and actually escapes through the crowd, not just, fuck you, I'm going up the ramp, I'm going home now, I'm clocking out. No, she actually does escape through the crowd, which does two things. It it guarantees us that that Caitlyn is going to get another title shot. It guarantees us that somewhere along the way, hopefully at the Rumble, Caitlyn is going to be the new champion. And it means that we won't have an immediate, how can I say this? An immediate title change with no reason for the match on Raw. We can save it for pay-per-view, it'll be all good. What I would love, if they're going to play up this whole Eve keeps running away thing, I would love to have a women's cage match. I'm just saying, TNA did it and it was fucking fantastic. I think it was Tara and Mickie James, not sure. They could do it. I'm not saying it has to be all like friggin' ridiculous high spots and blood and guts and gore and all that shit, but a women's cage match could be pulled off quite well, especially with two stars like Caitlyn and Eve. Just putting it out there. Toss it down in the box below as to what you think would happen if there was a women's championship, or sorry, a Divas championship cage match at the Royal Rumble. Just saying. It was okay for what it was. In the back, things that are not okay at all. We have Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, which is awesome, except he's wasting his time with Santino. Oh dear God. Barrett comes in to make me cringe even more, because Barrett should be doing better things. Insults Santino, does the typical, hey, you're a legend, therefore you're old and washed up because I'm a heel and that's what I'm supposed to say shtick. And from this we get Santino and Barrett later tonight. Why is Wade Barrett, who's awesome, who could be a world champion right now, who's the new Intercontinental Champion, wasting his time with Santino Marella? Oh, yes. Now, what the hell did we have next? We had a segment in the back with, what the hell? I'm sorry, guys, I didn't even do the Do Me Clipboard thing. I put a couple of notes up on the screen, and that's all I've got, and that's all I'm going with. So, we have an interview with Orton that is interrupted by 3MB, which made me laugh a lot, because 3MB are great at being those overly cocky jobbers that's like, okay, keep talking, keep talking, keep talking, we will give you enough rope to hang yourself, keep talking. 3MB tries to stare down Randy Orton. Orton is given a choice by 3MB to face the lead guitarist, the lead bassist, or the lead singer. So they're all the lead and they're playing up the band metaphor, and it's absolutely corny in all the right ways. Orton says he'll see Slater in the ring later tonight. All is well and good. Rhodes Scholars versus Hell No. Oh yes. Oh yes. Hell No looked better than they deserved to look in this match. I'll give them credit for that. Rhodes Scholars looked better. Daniel Bryan tweaked his knee. Kane failed to be a top rope superstar because he's like 7 feet tall. You know, if you're 7 feet tall, you might want to worry about botching top rope moves, just saying. Daniel Bryan jams his knee. Cody Rhodes takes advantage. Crossroads gets you the win for Rhodes Scholars. Oh, yes. Why are we beeping? I'm trying to do a video. Oh, yes. So yeah, Cody Rhodes and Damian Sandow get the win. They're going to get a title shot at Royal Rumble. I hope they're going to be the new champions. I hope. And I heard through the grapevine that this could lead to Rhodes Scholars versus the New Age Outlaws at WrestleMania. If that happens, all my logic, all my, oh my god, this needs good build, all my analysis, all my reasoning will go right out the window. If it's Rhodes Scholars versus the New Age Outlaws at WrestleMania, this man right here will mark the fuck out. And I don't care. Moving on. Orton versus Slater is a squash. Not only is it a squash, it is a particularly funny squash because it's longer than a squash match. But in the end, obviously Orton's going to win. Obviously RKO's for everybody and everybody goes home happy. Barrett versus Santino. Didn't see it. I don't know what the hell I was doing at that particular point, but I missed this match entirely, thankfully very much. It's basically what I assumed. Barrett squashed Santino deservingly, and then he had a stare down with Steamboat. Now, if he's going to actually have some kind of storyline with Steamboat, that could be cool. He's one of the legends that can actually still go. He proved it a couple years ago at WrestleMania. Could be good for Barrett. Could be good for him transferring from a mid-card star to a main event star. It could be good. It could also fail on its ass. Moving on, my chair is doing funny things and my glasses are doing funny things. And you know what's not doing funny things? The rest of this Raw review. Oh, yes. We have in the back Sheamus being interviewed. And he is interrupted by 3MB because they just They just are suckers for punishment and don't learn their lesson, etc., etc., etc. Sheamus is going to take on one of the members of 3MB later tonight. We have a rematch of main event from last week. The great... Fuck off! Just saying. Rematch from main event, Great Khali versus Antonio Cesaro. Now, was the match great? Obviously not, because it's got the Great Khali in it. But it was nice to take the spot from main event and put it on Raw for more people to see. Antonio Cesaro, whatever you want to say about the match, Antonio Cesaro hitting the neutralizer on the Great Khali was an impressive spot. Antonio Cesaro is probably going into a feud with The Miz. Mixed feelings about that. I'd love to see Miz with some gold again. I'd love to see Miz with some gold that actually means something, because the US title is kind of down here, and yeah, Miz should be up here, and I'm just saying. But Miz could do great things for Antonio, make him look good, and possibly get another title reign under his belt, ha ha ha, so to speak. So it could be good again, and that's something we might see at Royal Rumble. We might see it play through past Royal Rumble. Who knows? I hate doing this. I would rather have my clipboard. I miss my clipboard. Heyman and Maddox backstage. Maddox continues to ask Paul Heyman for a job. Offers to referee the TLC match tonight and show what service he can be to Punk. Heyman continues to pretend he doesn't know who he is and tells him off, and does quite a good job of it. Sheamus versus Jinder Mahal is another 3MB match. It's another squash, brogue kicks for all, and even though it was Sheamus, this was mildly entertaining. I will give them that. Next, we have the TLC match. Now, basically, yes, there's a lot of things wrong with this. No, we didn't think Ryback had a chance in hell of winning. Yes, we were just doing it because they didn't get to do it on the pay-per-view. Yes, it was less entertaining because it was on a Raw stage, not a pay-per-view stage. But taking all that into account, not a bad match. More than I expected out of Ryback, and exactly what I expected from our champion of 414 days, CM Punk. Great spots. There's a wicked suplex from Ryback onto Punk onto one of the ladders at one point that just makes your whole spine stand up funny just watching it. There was a spot that looked very uneasy where the ladder was actually leaning up against the ropes and, not in any sort of steady capacity. CM Punk gets thrown into that, bends himself around the ladder, and then you watch the ladder bend at the same time. Ryback at one point, as CM Punk was trying to do something in the corner, actually hawked CM Punk right out of the ring and through a table at the same time. It's all good. Now, Ryback at one point obviously did get to look dominant because he is Cena on steroids, and they're going to give him those types of spots. He was at the top of the ladder after he threw Punk through the table on the outside. He had his fingers on the belt, and the lights went out. And here's the ridiculous thing about all this, because a lot of people on the internet are disappointed because they were dumb enough to think that it was The Undertaker. I'm sorry. Yes, I know Undertaker does his best to make everybody look good, but oh my god, I don't think they're going to waste an Undertaker appearance on Ryback. Get over yourselves. Lights come back on. Ambrose and Rollins are on the other side of the ladder ready to knock Ryback off. Reigns is underneath them, trying to pull him down / trying to catch him type of idea. They beat him down. He fights back a little bit, has, brief spurts of offense, and basically eventually they put him through. I don't know how to say this. Because at one point earlier in the match, Ryback had taken the bottom section, the wider section of the steel steps, and tried to use it as a weapon. And a table had been set up on the steel, so you've got the steel with the ladder on top. They do their three-man powerbomb thing, which I'm going to call the GTFD. Until somebody gives me a proper name for it other than three-man powerbomb. And if you wonder what I mean by GTFD, it means get the fuck down. Oh yes, and they do. They liquefy Ryback through this table into the steel. CM Punk, the acting of this was great. From Heyman, from The Shield, from Punk, from everybody. CM Punk, one good arm, one good leg, hobbling up the ladder. He can't even sit up straight. He actually has to reach behind himself to get the belt. And to just see the absolute exultations on his face when he gets it, when he sits atop the ladder, and he doesn't hold the belt up. He has the belt in his mouth. Both hands up in the air. It's like, yeah, sometimes the right guy wins. Oh, yes. Heyman's I want to say overacting, but overacting in a good way, overacting in a very sly, sarcastic way. He's crying on the outside, congratulating CM Punk. I should have said this earlier in the match, but friggin' an Oscar should have gone to Paul Heyman during this match. He was freaking out on the outside more than the guys on the inside were at some points. When Punk was down and through the table, Heyman was laying on the ground face to face with him, trying to revive him, trying to get him up, etc., cheering him on with seemingly no fear. Now, Heyman, being the manager, has the appropriate amount of, like, cowardly heel fear in him, but he does it in the right way. When his guy is down, he's right there with his guy, trying to bring him back up, and that... Heyman can be a cowardly heel, a slimy snake, coward, chicken shit asshole, and still be right in your face, like he was with Triple H, like he was with Vince McMahon last week, like he was with Stephanie, like he was, you know, etc., etc. I would love to see some promos between The Rock and Paul Heyman. CM Punk versus The Rock we'll get to in a second, but I would love to see some promos between Heyman and The Rock. They will be beautiful, if I can put it that way. Now, we had to get to the promo at the end with The Rock and Punk, but we needed a little bit of something to break up the intensity between the TLC match when CM Punk came back out. So what did we have? We had the ex-Intercontinental Champion Kofi Kingston and the Big Show. And guys, you know I'm not a fan of the Big Show. You guys know that I have grown some respect for Kofi Kingston. But this match was 10 seconds long and consisted of, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you. No, you're not. Kofi tries to rush Big Show into the corner. The ref tries to pull them out. Big Show punches over the ref into Kofi Kingston. Done. Less than a minute. Less than 30 seconds, I'm willing to bet. It's just like, you know, Kofi Kingston's the scrappy, energetic guy. Nope. Done. Where are all of you that thought Kofi Kingston was going to be a world champion? You have dreams. Then we had Punk, and I'm not going to say very much about Punk and Rock and their promo. Anybody that didn't see it should go see it. Punk did another sort of a behind the fourth wall. These are the guys that should be pushed. This is the politics in the back. Da 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 da. There was a lot of really good lines that he had before The Rock came out. The fact that Daniel Bryan's one of the best wrestlers in the company, and yet he has to do the goofball Hell No gimmick. And I immediately ribbed Alex about that, because it was fun and kind of true. The fact that Brodus Clay should be a monster, and instead he's wasting his time with the young members of the WWE Universe. The fact that an invisible child named Little Jimmy gets more time on Raw than a workhorse like Tyson Kidd. That was the one that made me mark out. Tons. He went on to tell the WWE that him holding the WWE title for 415 days now proves that they do not matter. Who doesn't matter? The people don't matter. And who does that obviously bring out? The People's Champion. Oh, yes. Comes out, starts, you know, tearing apart the Summer of Punk 2011 promo from Las Vegas, starts bugging him about ice cream bars, starts a cookie puss chant, tells him to get a tattoo of candy on his ass to remember when he got his candy ass kicked. It was all great and wonderful. He gets a little more serious, does this sort of, you know, you're not boasting about 414, you're scared of the next 20 days. 20 days, your time is up, da-da-da-da. I love The Rock when he cuts a promo these days, because he can mix up the entirely goofy comedy that only passes because it's The Rock with serious shit. And I think he did that quite well, more than most people are giving him credit for. But CM Punk owned the day. I'm just saying, you know, take all your childish jokes, your jabs, your Rudy Poos, your candy asses, your finalies, and the line that he said that I was sad to find out later on was actually from some rap song by some jackoff named Nas that I have no idea. But you can't put a mark on the champion's face, because when you step in the ring with me, you will realize that your arms are too short to box with God. Holy shit. Yes, and it's going to become cliche, and that's going to be the line that everybody's going to be quoting for the next couple of weeks. But it was good, and it made sense. And when he got, what made more sense to me was when they both sort of acknowledged how great each other were, and CM Punk simply got in The Rock's face and says, you know what, because of the glass ceiling, because of the way WWE chooses who their stars are, chooses who their champions are, you've never been in the ring with somebody like me. I'm going to kick your ass because I'm the best in the world. And then he ate a rock bottom. But, you know, now they're even, you know, GTS on Raw 1000, rock bottom the week before the 20th episode of, or sorry, 20th anniversary, I should say, of Raw. Doesn't make Rock look particularly good, though, that he rock bottomed the champion after the champion had been through a TLC match to defend the belt. Seems like that would be more of a heel move, but here's where I want to point out a big difference between this and the Rock-Cena rivalry. The Rock-Cena rivalry was garbage because Cena was in it, let's be honest. But the lines are more clearly defined this time. The WWE was very, very careful to never establish that The Rock was heel and Cena was the face, or that Cena was heel and The Rock was face, because regardless of who got called the bad guy, you would have pissed off half of the audience. So the announcers were very neutral. They talked about how great both guys were. They talked about how controversial both guys are, even though John Cena wouldn't know controversial if he looked it up in the dictionary, but they made it very even that way. This will be very, very different. Because if you like to cheer for the good guys, The Rock is going to come in there and be the good guy that you want to cheer for. If you want to cheer for the bad guys like me, or cheer for who's simply better in the ring, the better wrestler, not necessarily entertainer, but the better wrestler, then you're going to be cheering for CM Punk. It gives everybody something to cheer for in an entirely different way than Rock Cena did. I'm ridiculously excited. I'm way too tired to properly express how excited I am about the Royal Rumble. As it stands right now for the Royal Rumble, we have potentially, and I'm saying potentially, definitely Rock Punk. We potentially have Cesaro versus Miz. We potentially have Eve versus Caitlyn, which I'm excited about. Diva matches are no longer a piss break. Didn't get to mention it much tonight, but it seems like they're pulling Sheamus away from the title picture and putting him with Orton again, which means Orton will be heel, which will be fantastic. It seems like they're bringing in a face, Alberto Del Rio, to feud with the Big Show, which is amazing because look at this. Look at everything we thought great about Daniel Bryan when we thought that he could get the Big Show in the LaBelle lock, yes lock, no lock, maybe lock, team goofball lock, whatever you want to call it. Now, if for some reason or another, through some wild flash of happenstance, Alberto Del Rio happens to get the cross arm breaker on the Big Show, and that's how he wins the World Heavyweight title, that will do great things for Alberto Del Rio. Oh, yes. You got 3MB, who are being used in a very interesting way right now, because they're jobbing and they're being comical characters, but they're being comical characters to the WWE's favorite guys, like the Ortons and the Sheamuses. Now, that's one way to look at it. The other way to look at it is that 3MB were the punching bags in a game of one-upsmanship between Sheamus and Randy Orton, which I wouldn't mind at all either. I will tolerate Sheamus in this feud if it means we get Orton as a heel again, which is what a lot of people have been saying. And I mean, they got to turn somebody heel, because they've turned the Miz face, which is interesting. We've turned Alberto Del Rio face, which I don't think they've entirely put the pedal to the metal with yet, but when they do, I'm pretty sure it will be fantastic. Pretty sure it'll work out very well, because right now, I think Del Rio likes the fact that he's getting cheered. Like, people were getting sick of him as a heel. He was the typical cookie-cutter cowardly heel, like the YWC would say. Same thing with The Miz. So they weren't getting booed because they were bad guys. They were getting booed because people didn't want to see them because they were getting boring, or, you know, that was the thought that some people had. These guys are genuinely getting cheered. When they had their match at TLC against 3MB, who the hell cares what 3MB does on a grand scale, really? But, I mean, all you have to do is go down and save the Spanish announce team and your little announcer buddy, and all of a sudden the place goes nuts. Miz hosts the show. If they had told you last year that in a tag team match, The Miz and Alberto Del Rio would be the face team, would you have believed them? Honestly. I'm not saying you have to like them. I'm not saying you have to like you have to agree with the turn or like the turn, but you wouldn't have predicted this a year ago. People out there that are clamoring for unpredictability, who would have predicted they would have turned Alberto Del Rio and The Miz pretty much simultaneously? Pretty much simultaneously, and, you know, it happened a long time after Punk went heel again, but if we get Miz and Alberto Del Rio going face and Punk and Randy Orton going heel, we'll have a nice little trade-off in the dynamic of the WWE. There's a lot of stuff to look forward to. Ladies and gentlemen, I've decided. I didn't even know at the beginning of this video if I was going to bring it back, but I am going to bring it back. I am bringing back road signs. So, this is not only your Raw review, this is episode 1 of the 2013 Road Signs series. I've been Spaz, your YWC reality check. Subscribe up there, talk down there, start a conversation, keep these conversations going. Tell me what you think on the road to WrestleMania. Don't be a stranger, I'll talk to each and every last one of you later, but for right now, I'm tagging out. Bye, guys.